Everybody, I'm here to do the video for Maha series, Dreaming Moon series, and as you can see, I'm going to try something here where I will sort of follow my notes and you guys can follow them with me because I'm very unprepared to make this video. It's been a crazy month, and though I had some time to jot things down and what I was going to talk about, I really didn't have enough time to prepare for this, and tomorrow is the deadline. So I'm here, I'm going to shoot this, I'm going to read my notes with you and sort of try to give you an idea of what it is that I'm going to be talking about, which is dreams, music, and the subconscious. And if this video is a mess, I apologize, but hopefully there'll be some good info here for you guys to move forward. So it was sort of serendipitous that I stumbled on this quote today in another person's video, and that's Sharon Ann Klinger. And if you don't know the Klinger sisters, you should check them out. Hay House authors. Yeah, without too much hoopla, she was talking about dreams and astral travel, and she mentioned this quote from the Talmud, which I never heard of, which is, an uninterpreted dream is like an unopened letter from God, which I thought was, whoa. And as you're going to hear in my notes here, I have, like most things in my life, very ambivalent relationship to dreams. And this quote sort of put me in my place to maybe start taking dreams a little bit more seriously. So let's backtrack. So when Maha, sweet Maha, asked me to do this, I was, of course, when Maha asks you to do something, you say yes. And then the more time passed, I realized I have nothing to say about dreams that would be different or informative or would teach you anything. And the more I thought about it, I knew that I wanted to say something about music and dreams and the subconscious. And so we're here. And I think I have something, maybe I don't. I know that my guides are very eager for me to say what it is that I wrote here, but I don't know if it's anything. So again, I apologize if it's absolute BS. So first of all, thank you to Maha for organizing this. I'm looking forward to having the time to hear everybody's videos. I saw a few, they're incredible. So congrats to everybody who participated in the series. So yeah, like I said, I have a very complicated relationship with dreams because my dreams are not linear. So sometimes they are, sometimes it's, somebody falls and it hurts, or you're angry at somebody and you're screaming at them. But a lot of the time it's like, I found this, it happened, I think a week ago, where I dreamt that a friend of mine was paying me for a measure of 16-note triplets in cash. This doesn't make any sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. It doesn't make any sense. Like, nobody pays for 16th note triplets, let alone in cash. But those are the kind of dreams that I have. They make absolutely no sense when I try to think about them with my logical mind. So I guess the reason why I have an ambivalent relationship with dreams is because I really don't understand what the heck is going on. On the rare occasion that I do take notice and I appreciate it, but a lot of the time it's things morph from one thing into another, and I just wake up thinking I have no idea what that was, nor do I have the time to figure it out. So clearly I'm not opening the letters from God. There's a big stack now. So yeah, moving on. So my guides obviously have an agenda of their own, and so I'm going to move on with their agenda. So I have like everything, I have an ambivalent relationship with what I'm going to talk about. So it's either what I'm going to say is so trivial that you guys should stop the video now, or I'm missing something in my explanation of it. So hopefully as I talk about that will become clear to all of us what it is that I'm missing. Third explanation is that we just don't understand the process of listening to music and dreaming to the level that we should, and that's really what my guides are trying to say, or all of the above. So the basic thesis here of this whole thing in a nutshell is that music really acts as a bridge to get us into an altered state. And again, if that sounds very trivial to you, because yes, it is, it's very trivial, that's like, we all know that. And that it's very much like a dream state. When we listen to music, the music acts as a bridge and it ties us into this altered state. And if we allow it and we immerse ourselves in it, something magical happens. And I think we can all agree that that's the case, so there's no problem there. So I think what my guides are really trying to say is that there's more to this whole thing that we care to admit. So let's dive in. So yeah, so first thing, I'm not an expert, not on dreams, maybe a little bit on music, but my original video that I wanted to make was about Freud and Jung and what they said about the subconscious, and then I figured that I don't have the time to do the research, so I should not talk about things I don't know about. If you really want to study dreams, there is incredible wealth of information, and I strongly encourage you. I wrote a paper in my master's about Freud, Schoenberg, and the connection between dreams and the subconscious, and I remember just so being overwhelmed by all the information that is out there. So I think what we're doing here with this series is just opening like a little window to something that is really immense and so interesting and so complex. So the first thing I want to say is just encourage you to go and read more on the subject and to say that I'm not an expert. Dreams for me are where we release baggage. It's where we process what we experience during the day, and it's basically the mental digestive system. And not everything we ate today has deep nutritional value and needs to be absorbed. Some needs to be discarded, and dreams are that place. So as much as I want to say that in a dream state we all get to go hang out with our guides and have a party, I think some of the time it's really all about just processing some really random, not important information that got stuck in our system, and we just need to let go of it. And I think it's important to acknowledge that some of our dreams are just that, just processing random bits of information that really don't mean anything, and I think that's okay. Yeah, I think that we can dream so we can let go, not obsess over it. Yeah, the Joseph syndrome, though sometimes I think we all have the ability to have a prophetic dream, or of course to meet our guides and to have very profound messages come from them. We need to watch out that we don't take everything that comes up from the subconscious as a prophetic indication of anything. And I think sometimes the desire to have those dreams can override the truth of it, which is it really doesn't mean anything except what came up in the dream. So again, I would caution against us all developing a Joseph complex where we are dreaming about the future and we can foretell the future. Yeah, I think I said that. Not everything that happens in a dream is a message. And the last thing, again, maybe it's a repetition of the first point, is that it took therapists and psychologists and people who work with dreams on a daily basis many years to get to the place that they feel comfortable analyzing their dreams and other people's dreams. And it's such a complex art because we all have a very subjective language of these images. And though, of course, Jung talks about archetypes and Freud talks about the collective unconscious, we're still connecting to those things through our very personal lens. And I think we need to, again, respect the immensity of the subject before we delve in and we say, oh, we know exactly what X means. I think my biggest learning curve was when I realized that a lot of the characters in my dreams were representations of myself. So I would wake up in the morning and think, oh, I have such a huge problem with this person, and really the person was just a reflection of an aspect of myself. And that was an incredible door for me to open. So again, I'm saying all of these disclaimers so we walk into the subject not with confidence but with hesitation and with open eyes and with tremendous respect to those people who have spent years studying it and still are confused by dreams. Okay. All of that said, a dream is a place where we can do some major healing work. But here's the catch. The realization needs to be conscious for us to actually reach the healing potential. So what does that mean? I sometimes remember my dreams, I sometimes don't remember my dreams. But in order for the dream to be healing and for the message to actually come through, I need to become conscious of it somehow. So if your subconscious sends you a crazy dream where you're running away from flesh-eating zombies, the emotion of fear gets processed in the dream, so that's a good news. The bad news is that you have to figure out who the zombies are. And to do that, you have to be conscious. You have to actively think, well, where in my waking life do I feel there are zombies chasing me? So is it work, family, maybe some actual zombies, or worse, a projection of your shadow self who tries to judge, hunt, and sort of eat you, maybe? I have a lot of those dreams, actually. I have a lot of paranoid dreams where I'm being either chased or there is a cataclysmic event that wipes humanity and things are chasing me. So I would say that that's a lot to do with my being third generation Holocaust. I think that is not healed yet. But it could also be other issues. So again, the point is you have the dream and you feel the emotions very strongly, but you now need to bring consciousness in order for it to actually mean something and for the healing aspect of the dream to actually come forward. So yeah, so the conundrum here is if a dream is really successful, it will bring up something that is buried under many layers of judgment and conditioning. For it to have a healing impact, it must become conscious, meaning we have to look at it with conscious mind. So point number 1 is be ready to hear something uncomfortable, right? 2, be ready to address it. This is why going into a meditative state in a quasi-dream state and going into a fantasy or guided meditation where you explore these emotions and messages could be much more beneficial. So what am I saying here? Dreams are great, but if we don't remember them, we don't consciously process them, there is, I won't say very cautiously, less value in them. But you see, I'm going to contradict myself in 2 seconds, so just hold on. Yeah, so the other conundrum is that most shadow emotions don't really want to come up. So we can be sitting here talking about doing dream work, but if we're not going to allow in the dream state for that very dark emotion to come up, then we're really not going to process it. So as you can see, it's a very complex mechanism of allowing things from our deep subconscious to come up to be processed. And when we are unconscious, those emotions and scenes might be willing to come up, and when we are conscious, they tend to choose not to. So that's a conundrum. Yeah. The truth is, according to moi, and what do I know, is that dreams are a composite of many different elements that are not linear and are not always positive. Going into them can be wonderful or horrible, and they should therefore be treated with a level of caution. So I think I've said that enough times for you to see where I'm coming from. Now about meeting guides. Yes, the potential to go into a dream and meet one of or all of your guides from a higher self team is there. But, are you ready? There's much more of a chance that you're going to meet somebody from your lower self team and everything that they would like to do. So actions that we usually are not allowed to express in daytime, like sexual activities, immoral actions, transmuting shapes, and again, progressing in a non-linear fashion. So what am I saying here? We can set the intention of wanting to meet our guides and having a good time and getting the messages and the healing. But frankly, there's also a good possibility we're going to meet our lower selves in our dream state, because the sensor self is now asleep. So everything that wants to come up will come up. And that's, I think, a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that that mechanism is there to help us stay healthy and strong. And of course, there's so much research that talks about people who are sleep deprived and don't get to the REM sleep of having dreams and being able to process these emotions. So again, my point is, let's just keep things balanced. Let's allow the guides and the healing and the euphoric experience happen in a dream state, but also be aware that what we would call nightmare and horror stories and emotions that we don't want to process will also come up if they would like to. Yeah. Yeah, I think I just said that. So yeah, we need to go into not being conscious in order for dreams to be satisfying and releasing. I hope you're not thoroughly confused by what I'm saying, but just maybe are becoming aware with me of the contradictions that exist in a dream state and in working with dreams. So now I'm going to read you what my guys say, which I think is a little bit more coherent. So you can set an intention in the dream state, but don't be surprised if nothing happens. The mechanism of dreaming is much more complex than you imagine. It involves bringing together bits and pieces from your waking hours, together with subjective impressions, mixed with beats of inspiration. It's a little like a chef in the kitchen, aka your brain. So they're saying that, yeah, our brain is like the chef in the kitchen when using rotten leftovers together with some really superb fresh ingredients. How can you tell which is which? What's garbage and what's something you need to pay attention to? This is why we keep asking you to work with us in your waking hours and not when you're sleeping. When you're awake, you can take the message, the symbol, whatever it is, and you can spend some time digesting it and processing it. In your sleep, it's more about experiencing the emotions and letting them be. Music, here we go, gives you the ability to create a dream state or a fantasy state, and it allows you to explore shadow emotions and realities that you would normally wouldn't want to go into. So I guess what they're saying is that, like guided meditation, music creates that space, or if you will, a sphere, like a crystal ball, that we can go into willingly and consciously and experience the healing, a similar healing that we would experience in a dream state. It encourages the emotion to be aroused. It also encourages for the images to be non-linear, which is very important. It allows you to leave logic behind. There is no gravity in music, and you can go up, down, sideways, so you can experience a different reality altogether. And I think that anybody who has a strong connection to music can attest to the fact that sometimes when we listen to music, we feel like, gravity is gone and we are levitating or flying, or that really reality is suspended for the duration of the performance. This is still from my guides. There are different levels of dreaming. There is a dream where you're seeing something that is familiar or reminiscent of something else. And then there are dreams that tell you about crystals and card decks. That's actually true. That happened to me. And then there are dreams that tell you about crystals and card decks that you've never knew existed. And I'm saying here, this is me. In the actual dream that they're talking about, I was eating crystals. I was eating celestite crystals. And picking new crystals from the ground. Yeah, so what they're saying is that in the dream state, we're open to possibilities that in our waking life we don't think they're just impossible. We don't eat crystals. We might put them in water, but we still don't eat them. And in that dream, I was chewing on some delicious celestite crystals. So you ask us, what's the point? And we say, the point is to let your imagination have some freedom. Let it experience something that in your waking hours you can't reach. A different reality that is closed off to you when your eyes are open and when you are bounded by the rules of the material universe. A dream is a fantasy that you would like to take place. It's you exploring a possible scenario and seeing how it would make you feel. So I think we're going to skip the last one because they in the part 2 they actually go deeper into this idea of how to work with music. So let's go. So for those of you who are not musicians, I'm going to talk for a second about the idea of tonal and atonal music. So in tonal music, there are strong relationships between the notes that are set. So if you, I think of a good example, but the idea of major minor, the idea of dominant and tonic chords that are very strong, connections in music. That's what we call tonal music. So if I'm singing dum pam 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 dum pam 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 pam, that's tonic and dominant, and that's the fundamental relationship in tonal music that makes everything make sense. What we call a dissonance note versus what we call a consonant note or interval. So the relationship between the notes is set and is based on centuries of using the same harmonic progressions, more or less. And music that is atonal, all of those relationships are destroyed. Those progressions and relationships are all broken. And what before was logical is now completely illogical. I hope that makes sense. I'm thinking of a good example to give you guys. But yeah, I think it makes sense. It's like language. If language has, a verb and a subject, and that's how we communicate with one another, and we agree on these rules. If I started speaking gibberish, you guys might recognize some of the words, but the meaning of the sentence will be completely gone. So that's really tonal and atonal music. The move from tonal and atonal music coincides with Freud and his writing about the subconscious. Now, isn't that interesting? So when Freud starts talking about the subconscious, Schoenberg comes up with his idea of liberating tonal music from these rules and start to write atonal music. And basically, this is akin to what's happening in the subconscious, where we just release our brain to have a party with the images and the bits of pieces that don't necessarily coincide together, like eating crystals. I hope you're laughing. Yeah. So it's easy to make the connection between tonality representing logic and consciousness and atonality representing chaos and the subconscious. So in music, you can switch gears, dimensions very easily. But what is really wonderful is that with the collapse of tonality, you can now really create a crazy dream space where anything and everything is possible. So I actually created a playlist on my channel called the Dreaming Moon series music. And I put one example of atonal, the Schoenberg, the 5 pieces for orchestra. It's just the first piece and it's 3 minutes. And you can listen to it, and if that doesn't take you straight into the subconscious, I don't know what will. It's a wonderful, wonderful, cacophonous, crazy piece of music. So in truth, almost every piece of music is a pseudo dream state. The music creates its own sphere of reality filled with emotion and its own unique landscape. What you're hearing in the music or dreaming what are you hearing in the music or dreaming when you hear the piece? Do you hear Indian tribes? Do you see an old lover? Are you crossing the oceans or flying high? Music gives you the opportunity to experience the emotion of that dreamscape. So what am I really saying here? I'm saying that music is a magnet. Just listening to certain pitches in certain speeds, in certain harmonies, in certain sequence will arouse an emotion in you. And the power of that is that because it's like a magnet, you will be pulled into that sphere without thinking twice about it. If I just ask you to do that, literally imagine a happy place, or imagine, the beach and the sun. You're not necessarily going to go to the same level of intense emotion as if you're listening to Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, or, I'm Walking on Sunshine. The music inherently has a much more profound emotional content that overrides your own emotional state and therefore sort of sucks you into that reality. Okay, here's my guides on this. We want to guide you in this quest of understanding dreams. There's nothing to be afraid of because they know me and they know I get stressed out. The dream state is the meeting point between different worlds. Entering it is like entering the lobby of a grand hotel where different travelers come from different dimensions, from other worlds, and of course from different aspects of the self. You can take the elevator to the first floor and experience echoes of yourself in each of the rooms. You can maybe take the elevator to the second floor and experience echoes of meetings and occurrences from throughout your day, month, or past. You can take the elevator to the third floor and experience echoes from past lives. You can take the elevator to the fourth floor and experience potential futures or future potentials. That's the Joseph complex, right? Take the elevator to the fifth floor and meet your higher self and guides. Or take the elevator to the sixth floor and come face to face with divinity. I love this analogy that they came up with of dreams being like a hotel lobby, and you can take the elevator to different floors, and God knows how many floors there are. Yes, you can also take the elevator to the basement and see what's there. Isn't that interesting? So the point we're trying to make is that in a dream state, you're given access to this hotel and to be one of his guests. There is no, you should go to this floor or that floor. So there are no rules. At different times, you will visit different floors. And then they hit me. You refuse to remember your dreams because you're scared of what you will remember. And isn't that the truth? Confronting the reality that what messages you're getting from us during your sleep are actually true and not just a figment of your imagination. So sometimes I remember, and sometimes I guess I choose not to. We encourage you to remember your dreams and what messages come from the different floors. I'm going to do my best. Your censoring self is stopping a lot of the information from coming in. You judge it as illogical. Sure do. As a fantasy, etc. You don't allow it to surface, and yes, some of it, or some of what comes up, does belong in the garbage, but a lot of it does not. Growth can only come from awareness, and by definition, it has to be awareness of something you are not conscious of. So yeah, here we agree. So how is that going to work? If you're sleeping and unaware, how would growth occur? How can you allow something to surface that you have no idea is there in the first place? And their answer to that is music. Music is the fishing rod that can help you fish items from the pool of your subconscious. It acts as a magnet to a memory, to an image, to a feeling. It will bring up hidden gems from your subconscious, some to be healed, some to be released, and some for you to learn from. Music is another way of you gaining access into the hotel, but this time you're conscious and aware. Think of it this way. If we ask you, yeah, I think I just gave you that example. Let's go again. Think of it this way. If we ask you to listen to Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, you can immediately hear it and connect to the feeling of happiness and joy. You're in the hotel. The joy will lift you up and take you to the appropriate floor in the hotel, and you can check out who is waiting for you in that specific room. Who is there to celebrate with you? What memory is connected to that feeling of happiness? Yeah, you keep thinking, and I do, that this retrieval of emotion and memories is easy. Like 2 + 2 is 4. It isn't. For most people, connecting to their emotions and bypassing their censoring self is very difficult. Music helps get you into the right side of the brain and into the imagination, which is another access door to the subconscious. And I think a lot of us get stuck on that one, that we think, oh, it's the imagination, it's not our guides. And I think what they're saying here is really important. It's the same space. The imagination and divination and guides, they're all in that hotel, and those are just different access doors to that connection. You don't have to be logical here. You can imagine and open the door to whatever wants to come up. You can also navigate by choosing different styles and pieces of music to get you to where you need to go. So what they're saying is that if we choose to work on a love issue or on a family issue and we pick the right piece, we can actually connect to those emotions through the music. The objective of all of this is the release of emotions and healing of humanity. The emotional baggage, the history, the pain you're carrying is getting impossible proportions. Isn't that true? The drug epidemic is a result of everyone running away from their emotions, not towards them. It's the inability to modulate on the emotional scale from one emotion to another. It's the inability to accept the shadow for what it is, a teacher of contrast. The more this complex grows, the more you want to solve it with your brain, and it's not going to be solved by logic. It's going to be solved by awareness and experiencing of the emotion, releasing the emotion and feeling lighter as a result. So I guess what they're saying is let's all listen to music and release our emotions. Then they made me, the 5 examples of things that they told me to think about and to see what came up as I was actually hearing the music in my head. I didn't need to play a recording, but so, Beethoven Fifth, immediately to anger, and I saw my father and all of that stuff. A piece by Debussy, and I see nature, the sand and waves. It's immediate, which is maybe why I think this is so easy to do, because there's no hesitation in my, I guess in my conscious self when I listen to music to what that music is trying to say and what is being depicted. And maybe that's where I'm getting all of this wrong. Maybe it's actually very difficult. Yeah, so their point was to show me how immediately by conjuring these sounds in my head, I can create that altered reality. And it actually ties to something I heard in a different channel that they were talking about the drumming and how the drumming, as an act of shamanism, puts people into a trance. And of course that is true. And of course the rhythm and the sound will take you into an altered state. So am I stating the obvious, or is this something that we're just not really appreciating how profound this type of work can be? I don't know. So yeah, so they said, you see, you have an already open channel to these memories and emotions because you have been working with incorporating your imagination into your music, which is absolutely true. You do it without even thinking. The memory comes up at will because the music invites it up. Most people don't have that luxury. They have to work at opening that connection. And this is what we want you to talk about. How to open that channel, that connection between one's subconscious and emotional self and the thinking rational self by using music. So then they give us the exercise, which is Lie or sit in a comfortable position. Make sure that you have a piece that arouses strong emotions in you. Go with a piece that is at least 5 minutes long or longer, as it will take time for most of us to get the entire image up. When the piece is over, write down what came up for you. You can then decide what you would like to do with that information. And they're saying this is different from listening to background music during meditation, and they know that I can't do that. So it's a private joke, I guess. The music is the link to the other side, not just wallpaper. Yeah, I totally agree. If something very strong comes up, journal about it and give it a voice, give it space. Then I'm going to do this in a different, because this is too much for one video, and this video is already 30 minutes. So there's the Pluto spread and elemental spread and mapping the emotion spread. So how am I going to finish this? I'm going to say thank you for joining me, and I'm sorry this is such a incredibly dense video with a lot of contradicting information. But I think the bottom line of what I'm trying to say and my guides are trying to say is that music is an option for us to engage consciously in what's in our subconscious. And though dreaming is wonderful and is much needed, and we can get a lot of information through our dreams, it's the conscious act of registering those realizations and information that actually brings up the healing. And this is why, I loved Sacred Space Japan's videos with these crystals, because again, it's about something coming up to the consciousness and being able to retrieve it and being able to look at it and think about it and contemplate it. Like Maha said, contemplate what's coming up so you can actually make a conscious decision about how you're going to deal with it. I hope this was helpful. Again, I apologize for the messiness of this video, and I will post a couple more videos soon about those other spreads. Okay? Until then, bye. Thank you for being here. Ciao.